Hello, my name is Dom Faussette. I'm an executive coach, speaker coach, and radio show host of the Think Correctly radio show here in Phoenix, Arizona. The type of people that I assist are those individuals that need better assistance with effective communication in their business, whether it's on stage, TV, or just from a leadership perspective overall with their direct reports. I am prior military, ex-cop, spent 15 years in leadership development space, and now I'm an entrepreneur. Prior to doing the business development under Jason Cisneros, one of my primary frustrations was, what do I do next? And then I say the secondary frustration that I had was figuring out how I was going to grow as a speaker and how I was going to grow as an executive coach. I'd say one of the primary impacts based off the frustrations that I just mentioned was stagnation. So there wasn't a decrease, but there wasn't much consistent increase in what I hadn't considered as my business as a whole. Had I not had business training and development via Anton Jae, come January 2020, when the pandemic, if you will, hit, I believe that I would be stuck, and I would not have been able to mentally prepare myself to reposition my business and my brand. I say the top three areas that stand out to me the most as it relates to growth and development under Anton Jae would be not lumping myself into just a speaker, but actually being a person that has a speaking business, not lumping myself into a podcaster, as opposed to moving the needle forward to the next level, which in this case now I have a radio show. The second thing would be understanding that it is darn near impossible for me to do everything on my own. And I needed to structure, this would fall into the third aspect of it. I needed to structure Think, React, Lead, which is the name of my company. I needed to structure that as a business, and utilizing Anton Jae Global to assist in the structure of that allowed me to kind of open my brain to, I worked for several companies before. They all had a structure, but what I've noticed, they all structured the same way. And the CEO or the president didn't do everything. So it put me in a position to understand who and what I needed to hire. As a result to the Anton Jae business growth, let's call them classes. That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like I was back in school. But I'd say the primary massive action that I took was taking a step back, looking at my brand and referring to it as a business, and asking myself, what is my mission and what do I need to accomplish? So instead of having a podcast, going from podcast and actually getting on a larger platform, like having a radio show and building a media company, none of these things I don't think would have happened had it not been for the tweaks that needed to take place via the training, because they're all, and I think the question was massive action. These things require massive action. Small actions would be maintain the podcast and do some little things around there, but taking it to the next level and understanding truly what I and my team are capable of. Specific to the training that I received in the Anton Jae program, I'd say the biggest contrast between prior to myself being in there till now would be in the financial aspect of it, and the mindset. Finances are great, and they're needed, but getting the finances that I've gotten from clients, growing my business, where to repurpose those funds. I think for me, understanding where to repurpose the funds that I was making or that I have made as it relates to my business growth, and then understanding really who I am. For me, that's been the greatest thing. I'm not a speaker. I am not a media coach. I'm a businessman who happens to have these subcategories within my business, and each subcategory I treat as a separate business, which has allowed me to implement roles and understanding of what those roles are for the people that work for me. So that for me de-stressed me as a whole, gone from just being a do-it-all-yourself entrepreneur to getting dialed in to making the money, and then where to reinvest the money in my business. That has taken away so much stress. And as it relates to relationships, I've always had a fantastic relationship with my spouse, but it's great to be able to do everything on your own and then take a step back, go through the Anton Jae training, and then understand those people closest to you. So it could be your spouse, in my case, my spouse and family members, and ask them to implement things that they have skill sets in, as opposed to just looking at them as just your spouse or just your family members. So that's been hugely beneficial for me, especially from a mindset and stress standpoint. You know, prior to working with Anton Jae, I was, like many speakers, operating at an under the six-figure bar. After Anton Jae, it became very easy to exceed the six-figure space. And that, for me, it was one of those things that I didn't notice because I was now that I had a structure, I had building blocks in place. And as I was building and I had people to handle various aspects of the business, the funds that were coming in, I understand what percentages needed to go where, but then at the end of the year, when I had the conversation with my accountant, he advised me on how much I've grown in a short period of time. So I can honestly say that going from five figures they're decent, but then going to six figures for me was hugely beneficial. And it's allowed myself and my wife to actually enjoy the businesses that we've created as opposed to just chasing the crumbs. When the Anton Jae program was brought to my attention, I'd say I almost didn't join because of the time commitment. Here it was, me just getting my feet wet in the entrepreneur space, having just a year out of corporate space, and now I got to go back to school, if you will. But after I joined and then I stayed committed to the trainings as they went on, I found an appreciation for learning things that I know for a fact I didn't know. Because what it did, it seemed like every time I would go a couple weeks into training, I'd get a client come on board for my programs. And even though they didn't ask specific questions about the business, I knew that their loss of conversation, I had answers for that based off the training I received. So it was almost a twofold appreciation. One, for myself and the growth of my business, where I saw my business as such it was. And two, being able to answer questions for my clients that they didn't even realize they had. I think that one of the aha moments I had during my training was structure. The way a business is actually structured. And like I said previously, my mindset was on the fact that I thought I was just a speaker or a coach, as opposed to having a business that needed speaking coaching and it needed media coaching. When I looked at it from a high level overview, then I saw it as a business, and it was all the structure that was required within a company for it to be successful. So for me, having put that structure in place, not knowing that I needed it, because I figured, it's just Dom Faussette. I'm just doing what I do. Nay. The training allowed me to see structure for what it was and understand that the structure needed was required to move the needle forward in your business, in my business, which inadvertently set me up for success in building other relationships and taking full advantage of opportunities that came my way down the pipe. This program would be benefited by, I think, anybody who's been in business longer than 2 years and so I'm talking 2 years to whenever, but has had some stagnation in their growth, or maybe some other frustrations like, where do I go next? Or do I continue down this path, or do I reinvent the business? Do I start with something else? So any questions that one might have, those questions that we ask ourselves quietly, specific to our business development, any of those questions where you need help being steered in the right direction, that's who this course is for. One of the hesitations that I had about committing to the Anton Jae Global Program was, do I need help? Well, hindsight, if I asked myself the question, do I need help? Then the answer was yes. And admitting for myself that I needed help, I think, was huge. And then committing myself to this increased level of training, I just needed to kind of batten down the hatch and really engage and move forward. So my decision making went from, is this something that I really need to join because I didn't know what was on the other side, or just kick in the door and breach and just make magic happen. And for me, I only can get out of something what I put into something. So the fact that I put in the time and the energy and effort to do the training definitely was a huge eye opener for me. And I think it was worth the time and the energy and the effort that I had to spend to move the needle forward. So I said yes and moved on. I'm a veteran, and I respect everybody, but working with somebody that has an assertive approach is definitely beneficial to me. I don't do well with the sing-songy back and forth approach to business development. And then working with somebody who has light years of experience ahead of me it helps me respect the training. So all of the people that were involved in the training, it was very easy for me to respect and very easy for me to be open to what to expect. And I never questioned anything that any of the instructors shared when it came to business growth. Why? Because the proof of what they were teaching was in the pudding. They had over decades of experience that I could just accumulate in we're talking a 12 week course. Now, was it a lot to chew? Yeah, it was. Was a lot to swallow? It definitely was. But I think it was necessary. And the seriousness of the training is something that I greatly appreciated.